Ever watch a television series or read a book and wonder why they killed off that character who was your favorite? Ever wonder what sort of sick mind made that decision to callously murder in the most brutal way some of the nicest people? Well, let me introduce you to George R.R. Martin, author of Game of Thrones, which is a popular series of books and a wildly popular HBO series. The battling royal families of Westeros are a bloodthirsty lot, and we can't get enough of them. This year, Game of Thrones ruled. Queen Elizabeth went to visit the set of Game of Thrones. President Obama photoshopped himself, sitting on a true seat of power.
Dancing the Viennese Waltz.
Corbin and Karina danced to the Game of Thrones theme song on Dancing with the Stars, and many other people completely lost their perspective.
Any Game of Thrones fans?
There were Game of Thrones game show parodies.
Ready? Let's go. Carrie, who betrayed Winterfell?
Theon Greyjoy.
Duncan, who's your local congressman?
There were recaps on the internet given by Snoop Dogg.
They think he killed Joffrey, but he didn't kill Joffrey. Peter killed Joffrey.
There was Elijah Wood obsessing over it.
The first thing that comes into my mind is Game of Thrones.
So I'm the nerd.
And no wonder. The imaginary land of Westeros, where the series is set, has dragons and sex and Peter Dinklage.
I'm guilty of being a dwarf.
And sex and zombies and sex and, well, sex. It's a world full of power-mad rulers
Bring me his head.
and painful injustice,
Tyrion Lannister, you're hereby sentenced to death.
but also a world filled with love and courage. And behind this exciting, violent, sexy, fantastic, imaginative world is this man, author George R.R. Martin.
Paparazzi everywhere.
Since the success of the books and the HBO series,
Nice to meet you. Holy cow.
Martin has become a public figure. But he grew up in a world very different from Westeros, Bayonne, New Jersey, where he lived with his working-class family in a housing project.
We were poor. We had no money. It was a low-income housing project. We didn't even own a car. We really never went anywhere. My school was on 5th Street. I lived on 1st Street. My world was 5 blocks long.
He was always making up stories. Comic books inspired him. His first published work was a letter he sent to the Fantastic Four comic book. As a student in high school, he was, of course, on the chess team. After college, he taught writing. At 29, he published his first novel. Nearly a dozen science fiction books followed. They made him a king at science fiction conventions. He moved on to Hollywood, first as a writer on the remake series The Twilight Zone, then as a writer-producer on the hit TV series Beauty and the Beast. But Martin was frustrated. His ideas were constantly being rejected because they were too expensive to produce. So he made a fateful decision.
I'm going to write a series of books here, a fantasy series that's just as big as my imagination. And no one will ever make this because it's going to be absolutely impossible to film this.
The series of books on which Game of Thrones is based isn't finished yet. He's only written 5 books so far and is behind schedule. Fans want him to hurry up.
But I'm a slow writer given to delusions of optimism that I can be a faster writer.
Furthermore, fans wonder if at 66 he will live long enough to finish the story.
I find that question, pretty offensive, frankly, when people start speculating about my death and my health. So, you to those people.
He's even been kidded for not writing faster at the Emmys in another Game of Thrones parody.
Time, George. Type as fast as you can.
Martin himself thinks we've lost perspective.
It's not that anybody has to suspend their life and just sit around waiting for my book.
There are lots of ways to conquer the world, through beauty, or strength, or deceit. But George Martin has done it with a far more benign weapon, the power of his imagination. By the way, George is married. He met his wife, Paris McBride, in 1975. They started dating in 1980, and they lived together for 30 years before getting married. Even his personal life seems to have an epic narrative. One more thing, they met at a science fiction convention. Perfect.